and Democrats' obsession with abortion on demand. The anti-life worldview of the left is our focus in tonight's preamble. There are a few things that can rip away Democrats' devotion to slaughtering children in the womb. While the United States endures massive inflation, high gas prices, disaster after disaster in foreign policy, rampant crime, and a compromised White House and military, the Democrats remain focused on destroying human life in the womb. It's so bad. The Democrats now want to abolish all clinics that promote the life of a child.
Those crisis pregnancy centers that are there to fool people who are looking for pregnancy termination help outnumber true abortion clinics by 3 to 1. We need to shut them down here in Massachusetts, and we need to shut them down all around the country.
Unbelievable. A mom being counseled to save her baby is torture, according to Elizabeth Warren. Goes far beyond Senator Warren, a woman who lied about being a Native American so she could get privileges at university by claiming to be a minority. And in the same dishonest vein, Democrat left-wing extremists remain devoted to continuing the filthy legacy of Roe v. Wade, the death of 66 million unborn babies, and maybe those babies who actually are born.
I assume you agree with infanticide, the killing of a child, a perfectly healthy child at birth?
I don't accept the basis of that question, but I do believe abortion is health care.
I'm talking about, do you agree? I know, I get that, but do you agree, I mean, do you support infanticide, killing a child after he's born?
I do not agree with the basis of that question,
What's
but
the
I
basis?
do believe that abortion is health care.
Okay, so I'll take that as a yes, you do agree with infanticide.
Wow. Okay. When asked if one believes in killing a child that is born alive, anyone with a conscience, anyone with a shred of humanity, anyone worthwhile, anyone worthy of being called an American says unequivocally, with no reservation and no hesitation, no, I do not believe in infanticide. But the sick and twisted Democrat Party, well, they don't say that. They just refuse to answer the question, eager to keep the option of infanticide, killing a baby, an option for the future. That was the glide path our nation was on, courtesy of the Democrat Party, before Roe v. Wade rightfully met the fate of Plessy versus Ferguson. Now that the debate is on in the states where it belongs, Democrats are staking out their positions. They will not negotiate when it comes to slaughtering babies in the womb.
Some senators have said that this bill, Senators Murkowski and Collins, for instance, have said that Congresswoman Chu's bill goes to...
We're not going to negotiate a woman's right to choose. As Senator Murkowski and Senator Collins may have their view, but it is not a view that is one about a woman's having the right to decide.
Unbelievable. Okay, contrast Nancy Pelosi's defense of her evil beliefs with how, let's say, John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell, along with 23 other Republicans, showed their level of commitment. Nancy Pelosi is 100% committed to delivering for her deviant base, a base that is eager to keep infanticide as an option. Pelosi says, "There's no negotiation for you." All the while, 25 Republicans sold out their voters and the Constitution by negotiating away our Second Amendment rights. As evil and twisted as the Democrats are, they don't compromise on their inhuman beliefs. Shouldn't the Republicans be equally stalwart and uncompromising about their professed and alleged deeply held constitutional beliefs? That's a question for Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy to answer, if a conservative can ever get an opportunity to ask it. But back to the Democrats. Here's Congressman Steve Cohen, a man with a history of making racist comments. Here he is claiming he loves America right before he bashes America.
Someone earlier said, and I hate to think this because I love America. I'm an American and love America and love this country. And I think it's a great country. But they said we're the freest country in the world. I think it was Miss Foster. Well, right now, Canada's the freest country in the world. And there are a few other countries along with Canada that are more free than America when we cut women away from having the opportunity to get their families and their bodies to be their choices.
Wait. Did I hear him right? Did I hear this guy right? Canada and other nations are more free than America because they can slaughter their babies in the womb without restrictions. That's how a Democrat who says racist thing defines freedom? Okay, well, that jives with what we know about Democrats and their love of abortion and racism. As Dr. Benjamin Carson pointed out, and other learned people of color have observed, Democrat donors like the butcher shop, Planned Parenthood, set up their abortion mills primarily in communities of color. But what about Cohen's assertion that abortion equals freedom? Congressman Mike Johnson had a response to that.
Mr. Cohen is wrong. Canada's not the most free country in the world, young people. Truth. Brought us back to that truth. It's my time. I will not yield, Mr. Cohen, because your comments are absurd. This hearing is absurd. Your comments are absurd. This hearing.
It's Mr. Johnson's time, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. This hearing is absurd. The Democrat majority has called us here for this hearing entitled "The Threat to Individual Freedoms in a Post-Roe World." Come on. The first inalienable individual freedom is the right to be born. It's the right to life. We boldly declared that in our nation's birth certificate.
All right, folks, he's right. Real Americans believe in the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those who want to undo those precepts are, by definition, anti-American. As stated, there are few things that can divert leftists from their dedication to the death of the unborn. But there are some things. You know, it turns out that the incident of a poor little girl in Ohio who was allegedly raped by an illegal alien, the abortionist there reported the 27-year-old illegal alien was a minor. Now, why would an abortionist dedicated to the death of children in the womb feel compelled to do this? I know we can only speculate, but it seems leftist dedication to illegal immigration may trump their dedication to abortion. Perhaps the abortionist was too stupid to know that a 27-year-old accused deviant isn't a minor. Or perhaps she was told this info, and despite the horrific nature of this crime, decided I'm just not going to follow up to confirm the facts here. Or perhaps the committed left-winger didn't want Americans blaming Democrats for an alleged horrific rape that was reportedly committed by a sicko who should never have been in our country to begin with. An investigation of the abortionist would reveal answers to these questions. Here's the thing. Most Americans believe that abortion should be permissible if a pregnancy results from the commission of a crime. Why would an abortionist lie about the age of the illegal alien who allegedly committed the crime? And why wouldn't authorities confirm details when a crime like this was allegedly committed? In the opinion of your Liberty Loving Latino, Democrats have nothing in common with those of us who love America. While our people are suffering, Democrats remain consumed by preserving death through abortion. The biased press, sharing Democrat values, all too happy and all too willing to help. Diversion is an important part of the left-wing playbook. All you got to do is ask Liz Cheney, Bill Kristol, and John Weaver to get confirmation there. I mean, if the majority of lawmakers and the media were focused on protecting America, we might be asking how China's communist, genocidal, racist government was able to buy farmland in America during a crisis of food security. Lawmakers might have to answer why China was allowed to buy this land in North Dakota, which sits right next to an Air Force base. What a coinkydink.